The Seahawks are locked and loaded and primed for their best season since the days of the Legion of Boom. We have players like Bobby Wagner, Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, and Jamal Adams on this loaded roster. This is a Super Bowl team in a Super Bowl window, so I'll be explaining how this is the Hawks' best chance to finally make a run to their second Lombardi trophy in the last decade. This is the perfect year for the Seahawks to go all the way with players like Jamal Adams and DK Metcalf on rookie contracts and an MVP quarterback in his prime. I believe this is the best Seahawks team since 2013. Alright guys, I am a Hawks fan, so you guys can take whatever I say with a grain of salt, but as always, I'll try to give you guys the facts and as little bias as I can. Alright guys, let's talk defense and offense. I believe we have the best safety duo in the NFL. Quandre Diggs, a Pro Bowler who had 5 interceptions, and then Jamal Adams, an All-Pro who broke the NFL defensive back sack record in just 12 games. And then, if you're a hater who just thinks he can't cover, you simply don't know your stuff. Because when you look back when he was on the Jets, he was known for shutting down tight ends, specifically Gronkowski, who might be the greatest tight end in the 2010s. And then corner, which out of every position on the entire team has got to be the most unknown and unproven position. With DJ Reed at one side in an open competition between Akelio Witherspoon, Trey Brown, and Pierre Desir. And it's not that the position is bad. DJ Reed is a stud and easily was one of the biggest parts of our defensive transformation last year, which I have a super in-depth video on that's in the description. But basically the Seahawks statistically went from easily the worst defense in the NFL to first in sacks in the second half of the season and third best in yards per game. And Pierre Desir is a ball hawk. He had 3 interceptions in just 12 games with the Jets last season. And Trey Brown is a rookie, so I have no idea whether he'll be good or not. And Witherspoon is the same because he's always so inconsistent. Alright guys, let's talk about the best position on our team, linebacker. Bobby Wagner is still easily the best linebacker in the game according to Pro Football Focus and most football fans, and is just straight dominant. And then we have our first round pick from last year who is a stud and has outperformed every linebacker in his class, Jordan Brooks. PFF ranks our linebackers the best in the NFL. So safety and linebacker are both arguably the best units in the game, and out of 4 levels on the defense, if we already have 2 that are arguably the best in the game, that's a pretty good start. And then you have our D-line, which is not necessarily the best in the NFL, but the most deep. Carlos Dunlap on one side and Aldon Smith on the other, who should play this year with just a 4-game suspension. And then you have Kerry Hyder Jr., who just led the entire 49ers teams in sacks and is peaking in production. Poona Ford, who is a super underrated run stuffer. Like, this is a D-line that is 7th in sacks for the whole season, in 1st in sacks in the last 9 games, without Kerry Hyder, who had 8.5 sacks, Aldon Smith, who is a monster if he can get his act together, and Carlos Dunlap, who we didn't even have for the majority of the season, and as soon as he was on our team, we led the NFL in sacks. And then probably a guy who could have a huge breakout year, and honestly replaces Jaron Reed really well, Robert Nkemdiche, who had 4.5 sacks and a forced fumble in only 10 games at the defensive tackle position, a former first-round pick with endless potential, and just needs to stay out of trouble off the field. So our defense is top 5 in talent. Our safeties arguably the best in the NFL. Linebackers easily the best in the NFL. Our corners are just okay, but there's always potential. And then the D-line statistically is the best in the NFL in sacks after Carlos Dunlap was traded. So I would be shocked if our team was not at least top 10 in most defensive categories in 2021. Alright. Now let's go to offense, but first make sure to stick around to the end when I talk about the division, our playoff chances, and Super Bowl chances. Alright guys, we need to talk about our new offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron, who was the Rams' passing coordinator. From what we know from the players, he's a very smart guy, but honestly, other than the players liking him, we don't have much to go off of, so he's probably the most questionable part of our otherwise stout offense. Alright guys, we have a top 5 quarterback. His name is Russell freaking Wilson. He led the NFL in touchdowns every week for the first 7 weeks, not just in this year, not just in any year, in NFL history. Russell Wilson is one of the strongest points on our team, and it seems the drama with him, quote unquote, wanting to be traded.
And everybody was saying that I requested a trade, and that wasn't true, so we made it clear that I did not request a trade.
What's up?
Just letting everybody know we're still friends, you know.
Hey.
Just messing
There
with
you
you.
go.
And our running game is a solid duo that has had a top running attack for 3 years and was the best in 2018. Carson, a top 10 running back statistically when healthy, who we re-signed in free agency after getting offers from the Patriots and multiple other teams, but instead took a team-friendly contract worth $10 million for 2 years with a third year voidable. And Rashad Penny, although not worth a first-round pick, is still one of the best backup running backs in the NFL. And then we have wide receiver, maybe the best receiver core in the NFL outside of the Buccaneers, and even then that's arguable. DK Metcalf in his third year has more yards in his first 2 years than Megatron, DeAndre Hopkins, Antonio Brown in his first 3 years, and is a future Hall of Fame talent and could be one of the best to ever play the game. And then last time you had a top 3 quarterback wide receiver duo, Julio Jones and Matt Ryan in 2016, and Tom Brady and Randy Moss in 2007. Both of those were Super Bowl teams, by the way. I hope this brings a ton of awareness of just how freaking good the Hawks are. This is a 12-4 team that just got even better. Oh, and by the way, we have Tyler Lockett, who had over 1,000 yards for the second time in a row and has 10 touchdowns last season. And this is a consistently top 3 deep threat in the NFL, and statistically a top 5 wide receiver in touchdowns in the last 3 years. And then you have a guy who will be shredding the third corner on opposing teams, and the best special teams player in college, who averaged the most all-purpose yards per game in the country with over 200, Dwayne Eskridge, who has ran a 4.3 40-yard dash, but has been clocked in at 4.2 in other workouts, and just completely opens the offense up so much more with having 3 reliable receivers on the team. And now tight end, which I think we have the most underrated addition on the offense in Gerald Everett, because the Seahawks have not had a reliable tight end since Jimmy Graham. Will Disley has not played a third of the time he's been on the roster, and he cannot stay healthy. Jacob Hollister was decent, but had so many drop issues and couldn't even hold the starting job. So having a tight end like Everett completes the offense. Look at the Chiefs, Bucks, Rams, and Packers, who all have a super good starting tight end. It makes the offense so much more consistent and reliable. So having a really good third option wide receiver and good tight end is going to be huge in making the offense more consistent, which it struggled with in 2020, but also more explosive and precise. And if that roster doesn't get you hyped for this upcoming season, I have no idea what will. So the 2 teams that stand in the Seahawks' way for the Super Bowl title is the Rams and Bucks. The Packers will not be playing with Aaron Rodgers, and the Saints lost a ton of playmakers and Drew Brees. And the 49ers have no idea who their quarterback is, although they could be very dangerous. The Cardinals are a big problem as well, but I don't really consider them contenders until they get a better season than 8-8 under Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury. And there really is no other teams in the same category as the Seahawks, Rams, and Buccaneers in the NFC. So the hope I have against the Rams is that our offensive line is improved and we have more weapons. And the Rams lost a ton of depth on defense. They lost their best safety, their top-notch nickel corner, and their best starting edge rusher, and their defensive coordinator, which is a ton of super hard blows to a number 1 defense in the NFL. And the Bucks, really, we haven't faced them, so it could go either way. But honestly, I think we could handle them, because in 2019, we faced them and they almost had the exact same starting defense, and we shredded their secondary. So I could totally be wrong, because the Rams and the Bucks are both totally stacked. As always, guys, go watch more of my videos, subscribe. Until next time.